President, please be seated. The court is back in session. Before, the chamber invites the civil party to appear in the courtroom. After hearing the request and also the responses by the Counsel Kope in relation to document E366, the chamber decides today we will hear the testimony of a witness, of a civil party rather, 2CCP 252, because the civil party is currently in the compound of the ECCC. And Mr. Kope stated that this civil party has something to do with cases 03 and 04. However, the chamber decides that after hearing this civil party, if Counsel Kope believes it is necessary to invite the civil party to appear before the chamber again, and then Counsel Kope can submit a request for reappearance of this witness. The chamber will take into account what has been raised by counsel for the defense team and also the request by co-prosecutor, and the chamber will issue the decision in due course perhaps next week. Court officer, please invite the civil party 2CCP 252 into the courtroom. President, good morning, Mr. Civil Party. What is your name? Answer. My name is Himman. President. Thank you, Mr. Himman. When were you born? Do you recall it? Please hold on and observe the microphone before you speak. Wait until the mic is operating. Civil Party. I was born in 1949. President, thank you. Where were you born, Mr. Mann? President, please observe the microphone before you speak. Answer. I was born in Saitso village, Piam Chikong commune, Kong district, Kampong Cham province. President, thank you. What is your current address? Where are you living now? Answer. I am living in Saitso village. President, what village is it? Civil Party, Saitso village. President, what is the commune are you living in now? Answer. I am living in Saitso village, Kong district. Again, I am living in Saitso village, Piam Chikong commune, Kong district, Kampong Cham province. Question. What are your parents' names? Answer. My father's name is Him and my name is Man. Question. What about your mother? What is her name? Answer. Her name is Al Mu. President. Thank you, Mr. Himan. What is your wife's name and how many children do you have? Answer. I have 5 children. Question. What is your wife's name? Answer. Her name is Khadijat. Him Khadijat. President, Mr. Himan, at the end of your testimony as a civil party, you may make a victim impact statement or harm suffered by you during the Democratic Cambodia if you wish to do so. Under Internal Rule 91 bis of the ECCC, the floor is now given to the lead co-lawyers for civil parties before other parties. The lead co-lawyer for civil parties and co-prosecutors will have 2 sessions to put questions to this civil party. You may now proceed. Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, Your Honors. Lau Chun Thi, the lawyer representing this civil party, will ask question first, followed by lead co-lawyer Mary Giro. President, you may now proceed, counsel. Lawyer Lau Chun Thi, good morning, Mr. President. First of all, very good morning, chamber, parties, everyone in and around the courtroom. My name is Lao Junti. I am the lawyer representing civil parties. I am from Legal Aid of Cambodia. Good morning, Mr. Civil Party Himan. I have several questions to ask you in relation to the treatment of Cham people within the period of 1975 to 1979. But first, before 1975, where did you live, Mr. Himan? Answer. I lived in Saxo village. Question. In Saxo village, did did the whole village consist of Cham people? Answer. I live in Saxo village, and in that village there were Cham living in the entire village. There were no Khmer people living mingled with Cham people in that Saxo village. Lawyer, thank you. Back then, were there mosques for Cham people to practice their religion? Answer. Yes, we have mosques and we have everything for Cham people to practice their religions and to worship. Lawyer, thank you. Back then, how did Cham people and your villagers practice the religion? We practiced our religion as normal. We had a freedom at that time to practice our religion. Lawyer. Thank you. So from what I heard, you were allowed to practice your religion freely. No one came to prohibit you all from practicing your religion. Is that true? Answer. No one banned us from practice our religion at that time. But later on, we heard different news. Lawyer, thank you. What about after 1975, after 17 April 1975, where did you live? Answer. I was still living in Saiso village after the 17th April 1975. Question. What about Cham people? Were they still living in the same village as you were at the time? Answer. Yes, they were living in the village. Later on, Cham people were transferred to elsewhere. Half of villagers were evacuated and sent to different places, and they were dispersed. Council, thank you. Do you know how many Cham families were living in that village? Answer. I can tell you the estimates number. I do not know whether it is right or wrong. There were around 200 or 300 of Cham families within the village. I was not the one who was in charge of the statistics. It was Takum who held that responsibility. It is my estimate that there were around the number I mentioned a little while ago. Council, thank you. You have just made a mention that Cham people were evacuated and they were sent to various places. Where were they sent to? Answer. All I know is that there was evacuation and I could no longer see half of the villagers who used to be living in my village. I do not know where they were sent to. All I know is that there were no half of the villagers living in the village, and I heard that they were sent to live in various places. Question. How did they go to live in various places? Answer. They were on food at the time. No vehicles, no horse cars were being used as a means of transportation at that time. Question. While Cham people were being evacuated, do you know when it happened? Answer. It is my estimate that it happened in 1975. Yes, perhaps it was in that year. I told you already about the year when Cham people were evacuated, it happened more than 40 years. So during the time, I had, my mouth were full of teeth, but now some of my teeth were gone. Question: how long after the 17 April 1975 were Cham people evacuated? Did it happen during the rainy season or in the dry season that year? Answer: Cham people were evacuated in the dry season that year. I cannot tell you the exact month of that year. It happened in the dry season at that time. No rains and the weather was hot. Question: regarding Cham people who were evacuated, do you know some of them, or were any of them related to you? Answer: yes, I know some of them, namely Ta Sakrit So. Ta Sakrit So was also one of among the evacuees. There were too many of them, but I am pretty sure that Ta Sakrit So was among the evacuees. Counsel: thank you. You said that some of Cham people were evacuated from your village. So how many Cham families remain living in your village at that time? Answer: after the evacuation, there were only 30 Cham families remained living in the village because many of Cham people were transferred out of my village already. Counsel: thank you. Among the Cham 30 family, did it also included your family? Yes, my family was among that 30 Cham families. We were still living in the village after the evacuation. Counsel: thank you. Later on, were these remaining Cham family called to attend any meetings? Answer: we were invited to attend a meeting and we were told that we, Cham ethnicity, were required to have our hair cut and we were prohibited from worship and we were required to eat pork at that time. Everything in relation to Islamic religion, we were prohibited from practicing the religion, and at that time we told that the wheel of the history was moving, and if we happen to put our hands in or to put our legs in to stop the wheel, our limbs would be cut by the speed of the wheel. Lawyer, do you recall who called all of you to attend the meeting at that time? Answer, I could recall it, but not well. During that time, the village chief's name was Tram. He was a Jam person practicing Islamic religion. Tatam was appointed to be the village chief, and he was the one who told me about what was concerning Islamic religion. I had to say that Tam, the village chief, was under was below at the higher level people. Later on, Tatam, the village chief, was taken away and killed.
Council, thank you. You just stated that the village chief at the time was Tatam, and that Tatam received instruction from the upper level. Did he actually organize a meeting to disseminate the information that he receives from the upper level, as you have just stated? Answer, I myself was tasked to engage in manual labor, and I was working while the meeting was being conducted nearby. In the Khmer Rouge regime, when a chief at that level disseminated a certain information, it was pretty certain that the information was from the upper level. However, I cannot say at which level the information was originated. He received the instructions from the upper level, I presumed, and he relayed those instructions. Question. Can you inform the chamber what happened after the conclusion of that meeting? I mean, what happened to the Cham people? Answer, indeed. People started to disappear either individually or as a whole family. And that happened continually. People kept disappearing. Question. And do you yourself know the reasons for those people's disappearances? Answer, I did. After those people's disappearances, in fact, people, while they were having meal, were taken away by the Khmer Rouge at gunpoint, and it varied. The circumstances varied depending on how many people the Khmer Rouge needed to take away. Sometimes 2 or 3 people were taken at a time during the meal time. And we were so scared at meal time because we were thinking that some of us would be taken away at that time. In our tradition, of course, we have meal in order to live, but under the Khmer Rouge regime, every time when it was a meal time, we were afraid that we would be taken away and killed, and people were taken to the west, and I presumed they were taken to Otakun Pagoda. Questioned. And when you knew about people being taken away at gunpoint, did you know whether any ban imposed on your religion? Answer. It was related to our religion. For us, we prayed to Allah despite the ban by the Khmer Rouge. We did it secretly. At that time, we were under constant monitoring by the militia. And of course, they did not tell us that this person or that person was taken away because they were spotted praying to Allah. And that was the conclusion that we made, that we were under watch by the militia, and if any of us was found to pray to Allah, then we would be risking our life, as they would come to take us away at gunpoint at lunchtime. However, this is my personal conclusion, as they of course did not tell us the reason when they came to take people away at gunpoint while we were having meal. And as I said at that time, everybody was well versed with saying that the historical wheel was in motion, and if you were happen to be in the way, you would be crashed. Counsel, please compose yourself, Mr. Civil Party, and please make your response rather precise. You spoke about having meal. Were you having meal communally? I mean, among all the Cham people, and were you forced to eat anything that you're supposed not to? Answer. After the meeting, the Cham people were forced to eat the pork. And when we actually were having meal, nobody came to inspect whether we were having pork or not. Everybody was silent. Everybody was afraid of everyone else. We were afraid that our the person who was sitting next to us would report to Angkar in order to gain favor from Angkar. And for that reason, when we were having meal, no Khmer Rouge came to see whether we were having pork or not. We were afraid that we were being watched, and if we were reported by our other Acham people, then we would be in danger. Everybody was seemed to compete with one another in order to gain favor from the Khmer Rouge. Question. Can you inform the chamber whether all the Cham people hate to eat pork at the time? Answer. In accordance to the holy text of Allah, for food that we were supposed not to eat, however, if we were forced at gunpoint, we could eat that meat in order to survive. And with that belief, some Cham people actually ate the pork. At that time, we were threatened if we were not to consume the pork, then we would be shot. Some people were weeping while they ate pork. Here, the meat that I refer to is pork. I made this response because I myself had to force myself to eat pork, otherwise I would be shot dead. Question. And what about other traditions and customs? Was there any prohibitions by the Khmer Rouge? Mr. President, witness civil party rather, please wait, and Councillor Copper, you have the floor.
Thank you, President. No objection, but a request to the lawyer for the civil parties to be a little bit more specific as to what period of time we're speaking about. I haven't been hearing any reference to time. I presume we are still in 75 or 76, but I haven't heard that. So in the previous question, the lawyer asked at what time did this happen. I would like to have clarification as to what year we are talking about now.
Civil party lawyer. Thank you, Council. And Mr. Civil Party, allow me to put further questions to you. In relation to your testimony that you just made, can you inform the chamber which year did it happen? Answer. I can only give you an estimate. I think it happened in around 1976. Yeah, I think so. It's 1976. At that time, we did not have anything to refer to the date or the year, because That's what I supposed to say. It was in 1976. However, for the actual physical mistreatment that I myself experienced, and I can tell you rather precisely about that. Council, thank you. Let me go back a little bit. You referred to a meeting. Did they mention that the Cham people were their enemies? Did they mention that in the meeting? Answer. There was a rumor which was spread out through the village that the Cham people were the enemy number one of the regime, and the Khmer people were enemy number two. And at that time, I myself was wondering about that. And in fact, I asked a person whose name I cannot recall now, and the person was Khmer, not Cham. And I asked why the Cham people were regarded as enemy number one. And he said that because based on the historical background since the birth of Allah, that the Cham people were greedy in engaging in the battles, in wars. And that's what I heard from this Khmer person. And the rumor was spread out through the village, and later on I observed that Cham people had been arrested. But in my mind, I still had doubt at the time that why the Cham people were considered enemy number one. Council, thank you. I'd like to move on to the next topic. In regard to the Cham people who were living in the village, and that later on only 30 Cham families remained, my question to you is the following. Were there other people sent to live in that village? Answer, yes, there were. The Khmer rules actually allotted the Khmer people to live mingled with the Cham people in that village. So, by that time, from the view, we could say that there was no longer distinction between the Cham people and the Khmer people, and every one of us living in the village was considered the Khmer people. Question: what year did this happen? Was it in 1976? Answer: I think I have to make an estimate again, because I did not have any calendar to refer to in the regime. That event probably took place in 1976. Question: there was an event that happened in that village. One day, the Cham people were rounded up and taken away from the village. Were you among the Cham people that were rounded up? President, Mr. Civil Party, please hold on, and Council Konsum-on, you have the floor. Konsum-on, thank you, Mr. President. Please instruct the civil party lawyer to provide the document that he referred to. This civil party so far does not mention anything about rounding up the Cham people. Civil party lawyer. Mr. President, my question is based The document is E3/4706.
ERN Khmerពី0
The Khmer EN is 00369051. And I will provide you with the English and the French EN a bit later. Rather, the English is 00407868. President Council Kong Sam On, you have the floor. Kong Sam On. Thank you, Mr. President. In order to avoid putting any leading question to the civil party, it is a practice that a general question shall be put first to the civil party before a particular document is referred to. Civil party lawyer, thank you. Let me rephrase my question to the civil party. My question to you is the following, Mr. Civil Party. Did you know about an event that took place in your village subsequently? Answer. Subsequently, the Cham people were not allowed to go and work in the field and to remain stayed in their respective homes in the village, while the Khmer people were allowed to work in the field. So the remaining Cham people from the evacuation were instructed to remain at home, and I was wondering what was happening, why we were allowed to not to leave home. And actually they started rounding us up at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And the members of those people were members of the longsword group. They actually were wearing scarf and they were shirtless. They had long swords. I myself was among the Cham people who were being rounded up and taken to the pits in Otrakun Pagoda. I knew that we were rounded up by them and that we would fall into their trap. And then I discussed with my wife what we were going to do in order to survive. So within the group, I was walking before other people, so that the Khmer Rouge group would think that I was heading to the pits. And then I met a person from the area and I was asked where I was heading to. And I actually told him that I was searching for my cattle. And actually I called my wife to come along quickly, because we had to rush to find our cattle. If our cattle ate vegetable, then we would be in big trouble. So then I was moving ahead with my wife, and then I met another person. And by that time, the main jam group was being headed by members of the longsword group. And luckily I saw a cow, a rather brown color cow, and I was happy that I would survive. However, we could not leave the outskirts of the village yet, as I observed that there were armed people situated along the edge of the village. So we hid ourselves, and at that time I was about 50 meters away from them, and then we were hiding ourselves in the bushes, and I could see them clearly. I could see them carrying AK-47 rifles, although I did not know who they were. So there were two groups. There were a group of longsword members who were herding the Cham people, while another armed group was guarding at the outskirts of the village. Civil party lawyer interrupts. My apology, Mr. Civil Party. Allow me to interrupt. You said the Cham people were being rounded up. What was the process like? Please elaborate a bit further. Answer. They rounded up the Cham people in a certain way in order not to make mistake in rounding up the Khmer people. For that reason, the Khmer people were instructed to go and work in the field, and only the Cham people were instructed to remain at home. And actually, later on, those people who were instructed to work outside the village were taken away and killed too. Question. My main focus is related to the activity of rounding up the Cham people. Were the Cham people told the reason for the gathering? Were any Cham people tied, or were they allowed to walk normally? Answer. During the process of rounding up, if any Cham person resisted, that person would be tied. However, for those who did not resist, they were not tied. At that time, the situation was rather confusing and chaotic. The dogs were barking, and the chicken was running here and there. So I presume even the cattle and the animals knew that people were being rounded up and taken to be killed. Question. You said that the people were being escorted by members of the longsword group. And you yourself successfully fled from the group. Is that correct? Answer. Actually, at that time, I tricked them. I made sure that when they saw me, I was a gentle person who would not resist the instruction, and that later on I managed to hide myself in the nearby bush. And that was the trick that I used in order to survive. Question. So when you could remove yourself from the group and then hid yourself in the bush, what else did you learn during this period of time? Answer. I knew about what happened at the time because I myself was amid the situation. I was lying in the bush and I remained there until it became dark, and maybe it was around 7 o'clock at night. Then the Cham people, they started to kill the Cham people. And why could I say that? Because the place where I was hiding was about 100 meters away from the pits where they were killing the Cham people. I heard screams. I was lying in the bushes with my wife, and we heard the screams. We even heard the sound from people being hit. People screams for Allah to help. They scream, "Oh Allah, my Lord." And usually the Cham people did not make such a scream. And no other people who screamed but the Cham people who pray to Allah. And I was there hiding in the bush because I could not escape from the village, since there was another layer of the Khmerus guarding the village. President, thank you, Council. It is now time for our lunch break. We will take a lunch break from now and resume at 1:30 this afternoon. Court officer, please assist the civil party during the break time at the waiting room for civil parties and witnesses, and invite him back into the courtroom at 1:30 this afternoon. Security personnel, you are instructed to take Kyu Sampon to the waiting room downstairs and have him returned to attend the proceedings in this courtroom before 1:30. The court is now in recess.